week, great day wherever you are and whatever day it is for you. It is Friday on the podcast, so we're bringing that good Friday energy to you. Unfortunately, it is nice and cloudy here in Seattle, so we don't have that sun, but it's okay because we'll bring the sun ourselves. It's going to be a good day because we have Fuquan Bilal with us on the podcast from NNG Capital Fund. Fuquan does multifamily and luxury single family. So if that is the asset class you guys are interested in, this is the episode to listen to. He has over 25 years of experience turning distressed multifamily and I'm sure not distressed luxury single family, but distressed assets into cash. So it should be a good episode. Fuquan, thanks for hopping on.
Thanks for having me on, Gabe. I really appreciate it. It's an honor to be on your platform, man. Appreciate it.
Absolutely. I told you before we got on here, we always like to start with stories. We like to hear how people got to where they are. So why don't you take us to the beginning of your story in real estate and just tell us how you got here?
Well, as Les Brown say, I jumped out the window and grew wings falling down. So yeah, I was in corporate, in sales, and then transitioned to real estate in '99. So it's been a 27, going on 28-year journey for me in this space, and I wouldn't change anything. All the mistakes that I made, and it's just been a great journey. Some painful times, some exciting times, and went through the global financial crisis, which was really a learning experience for me. Had to put my big boy pants up, and I got black eyes. Both eyes were black, and had to start all over again. But the reason I got into real estate was my older brother actually did mortgages. He was a loan officer, and he tried to convince me to leave my 9 to 5, where I was getting a biweekly paycheck, to come and work as a loan officer and wait to get 30 days to get paid or not if the deal don't close. And I was like, I'm good. But he did give me some good books to read, and through that, on my lunch breaks or whatever, I took the time to understand how mortgages worked, the points that the brokers make on the back end when they don't give the par rate, they add points on. So that was exciting for me to learn how it worked behind the scenes, and then what the retail homeowner gets from the broker, right? And how you make additional points. So I was intrigued by that. And what happened was, I was working for a company and was making a lot of commission. I landed a very big account, and the CEO set me down and took me out for lunch, and they reduced my salary. And that didn't sit well with me. So when they went on a trip to Europe to try to generate some business, I put my 2 week notice in. And I was already shadowing a family member of mine because he was into real estate. And lo and behold, I was able to make half my salary within a couple of months of being involved. And I never looked back, never thought twice. So that's how I got my start and cut my teeth in the business.
Nice, man. I love that. I always like to hear when people, when they get into real estate through kind of ancillary industries, like being a mortgage broker, being an agent, anything like that, because then you learn real estate before you get into actually spending a bunch of capital on deals. So I'd love to hear that. In mortgages, I feel like that's a really good background to understand how the financing works behind it.
Yeah.
So once you did decide to get into real estate itself, how did that play out? Did you start in single families? Did you start in multifamily?
For sure.
What was the first
Single
step?
family. We didn't dive into the multifamily portfolio until about 2000. It's only really been 6 years for us in that space. Most of our journey started with the fix and flip. So I grew
Mm.
up in Newark, New Jersey, which is a low income area. So as I always say, that gave me my fill of importance to go back to those communities, revitalize those properties, and put them back on the tax roll. It's like, I don't know if you ever saw the Bronx in the 60s and 70s with all the dilapidated properties and the burnouts. I grew up in areas like that. So being able to go back to the hood and put those projects together kind of made me feel good. I was able to give employment to the local guys who had criminal records, who couldn't get a job and everything else. So it was a really good feeling, and basically started flipping houses in those areas all the way up into the GFC. So I really didn't understand that cash flow was king. Back then, what was sexy to me was flipping a house and making 20,000, 40,000, 60,000 instead of renting a house, making $200 a month and saying, I need to get 50 properties and appreciation. I didn't understand that part of it. It was because of how I grew up and didn't have certain things. When I started to make large sums of money, I got addicted to that and stayed on that course. And it wasn't until the GFC came where I understood that those monthly payments actually do count, right, for something. So I had to make a pivot after that time, and I got into the note business accidentally, and got a mentor and started to learn that space. And that's kind of where my real estate investment journey began, when I started investing and buying mortgage notes.
Oh, interesting. That I didn't realize that was part of your story. So, notes happened after the financial crisis for you. Why notes? How did you kind of come upon that?
Well, at that time, if you could remember, a lot of banks had stopped foreclosure, right? The too big to fail thing, and they actually came up with the programs through loan modifications. Obama had rolled this whole thing out, and basically, a lot of banks stopped foreclosing, and they started to modify loans and or sell off the paper that they would book charge off. And I found out that that paper was available for the regular person, right? There was no regulation at the time from Dodd-Frank that was stopping regular person to go buy that debt, call a homeowner, negotiate terms with them to get them back on track. So I actually ran across that by accident because I was doing short sales. That was prominent during that time when the market crashed. Everyone was doing short sales. That was the game back then in loan mods. So during that time, I was actually on the phone with a negotiator from a bank, and he just asked me, "Why don't you just buy the loan?" And I was like, how does that work?" So he started to explain the process to me, and I started to do some research and found a fund that was local to me, well, 2.5 hours away, that was actually doing that. Took a meeting with them, understood the process, went through their mentorship, and then I began to start to buy notes with my own capital, created a few case studies, and then I had to go find investors that would partner with me on those assets. And that was really hard because it was a big education process to explain to people how it worked, because a lot of people don't know what happened behind the scenes. But when you buy notes, you're actually on the top of the pyramid. Like, you get the deal first, right? Before the REO. And that was great. Another great point about that was I was able to create more good feeling for me by giving homeowners a reprieve. Like, I would buy a note for that had a face value of 100,000. I may have paid 30,000 for it, right? The homeowner still owed 100. So I was able to reduce their payments based off my purchase price, right? They could have been paying $700 a month because we had the 80/20 loans. The 20% second mortgage was like 15% or 12%. So I was able to reduce their interest rate, put them on a 30-year AM, and cut their payment in half, which was still a great return on me because I bought it at a discount. And then after that note was seasoned, I would be able to sell that note to someone else who wanted cash flow, right? So I played that space for a very long time. And then I started doing education locally where I was. I would go to the local meetups and talk notes, and nobody knew what the hell I was talking about. So it took a long time to build that business because it was a lot of education. And, it was great because I learned a lot, helped a lot of homeowners stay in their house, had to foreclose on a couple of them and take them back. And through that, I developed a lot of relationships with banks and hedge funds. And I did that all the way up until 2017. That's actually how I started my first investment fund, because I had to raise a lot of capital. And going back to the short sale, my oldest son told me, "Why don't you create your own bank?" Because he heard me arguing with the banks that the banks don't want to do the deal, blah, blah, blah. He said, "Why don't you create your own bank?" And I was like, "That's how am I going to do that? That's impossible. You said nothing was impossible, you know."
Spitting it back
Gotta
at
do
you. I
it. I
love
gotta
that.
do it. So I
Come
reached
on,
out to
Dad.
an attorney, consulted with an SEC attorney, and they gave me the inner workings of how a fund works. And I set one up, and that was 2013, many years ago, and here we are today.
Nice, man. I love that story. And there's something I want to highlight about it is you heard about an opportunity, you could buy notes. You didn't realize it was a thing. You didn't realize it was an opportunity, but through your network, you heard about it. And before going out and taking action, you went and you found somebody. You said you found somebody in your local area who was doing that. You got a meeting with them, and you learned from somebody who had the experience, who had already done it. You learned how the process worked. And I feel like that's such a wise way to go about it. Partnering or learning or doing something, somehow getting in the orbit of somebody who's already done what you're trying to do, and then using that knowledge to replicate it on your own is the path that I wish I had taken when I got started, in investing. And it's the path that I always suggest people take when they want to get into any route, any asset class, any niche within real estate. So I love that you did that. That brings us up to today. You're doing multifamily and luxury single family in today's market. Why luxury single family? That's actually something that a lot of people stay away from because there is a lot of volatility in it. And it's most, I mean, it's not all speculation, but you never truly know what the luxury price is because it's really just based on what somebody feels about your property. So what, tell us why you decided to go that route.
No, that's actually the best part of the business because there's less people in the space, which means more deals for us. So fast forward, 2017, the market shifted from 2017 to 2019, and it was hard to find really, really good deals. I mean, note deals. So what we started to do is blend our note portfolio with rentals, leveraging the relationships that I made with the banks, now getting the REOs or notes and converting them into REOs through foreclosure. And then the regulation came out from Dodd-Frank, which shifted the way we played in the note space. And it wasn't profitable at the time.
And
then
go into that briefly, how that changed investing in the note space. The
Yeah,
Dodd-Frank
so
Act.
a lot of things changed during that time. Dodd-Frank came out with some regulations, licenses you had to have to collect debt from homeowners because it basically was a debt collector negotiating, and you had to be licensed in any state that you were. It was very expensive to get licensed in certain states, and we were buying notes nationwide. So we had to really figure out where our footprint was at the most and get licenses in those states. It was very expensive, a lot of regulation. Then a legal bill started to creep up, right? So it really at that point wasn't profitable. A lot more people were in the space by 2019. Remember, I started 2010, 2011, and pricing began to increase. It really wasn't profitable. So we started to add rentals into our portfolio and started shifting the mechanics of our fund and raising capital for a more diversified approach for notes and rentals. Then we added flips because we had the relationships with the banks. And we did that all the way up until COVID. And when COVID came, of course, you can't foreclose on nobody, right? Because they had all this stuff and you're the bad guy. So we decided to stop buying notes and laser focus on things that we can control, which was the rentals and the flips. And then, during COVID, we kind of got through that, made out okay. But then we decided because we were doing everything in New Jersey as far as the rentals and flips, and Jersey is a blue state, been here all my life, love it. But when it comes to people saying, I can't pay rent, COVID, and they have all these protections, right? We decided to divest that portfolio, take advantage of the 30% over list price that was happening because we had a huge migration of New Yorkers coming in because it was too hard to compete with retail buyers for low prices that were like buying properties for 180. It was just too much. So we decided to divest the rental portfolio, take the war chest to the southeast and started to buy multifamilies. And then we still wanted to do flips in our area because we had the resources. We had the contractors. I've been doing it since 99. New people in the city, seeing a lot of changes. So we decided to step up in the more high-end areas where costs are more predictable. If you're tearing a house down, you know your price per square foot to build. You have a process from foundation to framing to everything else. You don't have any surprises when you open the wall, foundation issues, and you go above your contingency amount you had in your budget. You don't make profit when you do like just quick flips. So we started to play around in that space and close a few deals that were insanely profitable, like 6-figure or more profit per deal. And we were just like, wow, this is amazing. Let's do more of these. And then we just tightened up our SOPs and started to do more of that. And there was less competition in that space where we were buying in the area in North Jersey, about 30 minutes away from the city. So we just said, we're just going to focus on two verticals: the luxury spec homes in New Jersey, where we have our relationships and resources with contractors, and the multifamily in the Southeast, where we can continue to do our impact project by providing housing for low-income people, battered women and children, seniors who can't afford a bump. So we discovered two areas, Alabama and Georgia, where we laser focused on, specifically Birmingham and Macon, Georgia, which are tertiary markets, and basically started to build out a portfolio there in red states, where if they don't pay rent, then they have to move somewhere else quickly. And that's kind of what we've been focusing on since then. And just trying to build mastery in that. The multifamily is very challenging. It's different from a 3-family, 4-family, 5-family rental, or even a 10-unit rental. When you have a 120 unit, 140 unit, or 300 unit building, the dynamics are completely different. So we had to do a lot of learning in that space, rebuild processes, found out that it's better to be self-managed instead of hiring a property manager that gives accrual accounting and charge you for things that they didn't collect money for. So went through all of that, and it's been a great learning experience and a journey. and took some lumps on the way and rebuilt the processes. And that's kind of where we are today, just focusing on those two verticals. One as local that we have control over, which is fun, exciting, and very profitable. And the other one, which is in the Southeast, that allows us to continue our impact project.
Nice. Well, I want to talk a little more about the luxury spec homes, but you mentioned property management, and that's something I just want to touch on before we go to that subject, because I've found that a good property manager makes or breaks a deal. And so you've kind of, it sounds like you've run into issues with third party.
Oh,
What was that?
I said for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what is what are the issues that you ran into with third party, and why did you decide to make that switch to vertically integrate and manage your own properties?
Well, they're just going to check the box, right? They're not going to look at cash flow and say, okay, you know, the bills get, majority of the bills get paid when we have most of the collections, right? When does most of the collections come in? From the first to the 15th, from the first to the fifth, the fifth to the 10th, the 10th to the 15th. Who are the slow payers? What plan are we going to put to attack to get those slow payers to pay, right? Why don't we just go everybody make payments on a portal instead of giving us checks that we now have to deposit and they bounce? Like a whole bunch of little things that they wasn't paying attention to. Just checking the box, paying the bills, and not really doing cash flow management. Also, the biggest pet peeve was accrual accounting, right? So you're billing me for things and taking a 6% management fee over something I did not collect, right?
Mm,
Move out fee, early move out fee, you're billing the residents that's not going to pay you. And you're looking like this is income on the books because it's accrued accounting, and you're taking your 6% management fee off of that. And that's not money that was realized. So I'm losing. Oh, well, at the end of the year, we do a reconciliation and they don't pay it. We give it back to you. No, 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 no. We need to do cash accounting. Like you need to get paid your 6% of which you actually collected, So going through that phase and then phasing them out because they didn't want to do it, and self managing, hiring your own team, training them, making them a part of your company, core values, everything being directly connected to the people that manage your property makes a difference. So we've learned you get a higher
yeah.
ROI that you'll be able to cut expenses quickly and move faster, basically.
So go into that a little bit deeper. Like, what were the lessons you learned bringing it all in house? Like, if you could go back to yourself, the version of yourself who just made that decision, I'm no longer using third party, I'm going to do it myself. What advice would you give him to build out this team and start doing self management?
Really, it's really creating when you're bringing your team on, creating a job scorecard, right?
Mm,
So what I've learned is there's four parts of the business: people, strategy, execution, and cash. And having rocks, if you run your company off EOS, rocks are goals, right? Related around those four parts every quarter, right? What are you doing to improve the strategy, execution, cash, or things for people, whether it's bonuses, whether it's reviews, whatever it is, right? To bring your people up. Whether there's a goal to read a book this quarter that's going to help them implement certain things or tighten up their processes and systems. Really dialing into that and creating a job scorecard, not a an ad, right? It's almost like a dog whistle to the person you want to hire, and then giving that person when they start money in the bank. Hey, you get this extra bonus, but here are the things you need to do, and here are the KPIs we're going to measure you by to make sure that you are doing what we hired you for, not just what's on your resume. So those are things that I would tell myself to make sure that those things are in place when you start onboarding people, and just having weekly meetings, making sure that you set those goals, whether they're quarterly, you're going over every week what you need to get through to attack the 13-week march in the quarter. So those are some of the things that I've learned to really help dial in and manage. And then the KPIs, right? You can't do anything without KPIs. You can't manage what you can't measure. And just making sure that the property managers, the assistant property managers, the leasing agent, everyone understands what the quarterly goal is and creating a map, right? What is it? What are the deliverables? The who, what, and when? What resources you need? And when is it due by? And every week going over that to make sure that management accountability plan, the map, is executed, uh, efficiently.
nice. Yeah, and it is so important to incentivize outcomes, to incentivize performance, and you mentioned KPIs and incentivize specific outcomes. I've realized that. I mean, just recently, how important it is for your property management team, for the people on your team, so that they have the right incentives, they're doing the right tasks, it's not just something that, like you said, they need to check off. If you can put numbers behind that, put goals, and put an incentive for them, a cash incentive at the end, you're going to get so much, so much more from your team that way. You're actually the second person just this week that's mentioned the EOS. It's called entrepreneurial. What is it? Operating system.
Operating System by Gino Wickman. He actually wrote 2 books. He wrote one called Traction and one called EOS. EOS is the one that you read with your team. Traction is really for the owner of the company. And then from there, actually, I had a coach, a CEO coach, a few years ago, took me through Scaling Up. It's Rockefeller Habits 2.0. It's called Scaling Up, and that's where I learned the 4 parts of the business: people, strategy, execution, and cash, and the management accountability plan, the 15-5, where you have all your team take 15 minutes at the end of the week, 5 minutes at the end of the week, and answer 15 questions related to their weekly goals. And it kind of forces your team to plan at the end of the week, review that plan, where they left off at, what percentage of what they said they was going to accomplish that week is complete, why they didn't complete it, what was done specifically, what went wrong. All that stuff helps you manage your team better, and have your ear to the ground, so to speak.
Nice. So what was that called again? You said
5.
Okay, nice.
5, yeah. It takes 5 minutes to answer 15 questions.
Very cool. All right. Well, hey, it looks like we have run down the clock, unfortunately, so I'm not going to be able to get into the luxury spectrum.
I got so much more.
Yeah, maybe for the next podcast. So I will have to push us into the quick question, Randy. You ready?
Absolutely. What you got?
All right. Starts with education. You've already given us a few recommendations, but I'm going to ask it anyways. Education is a crucial part of anybody's investing strategy. So I need 2 recommendations, one for general life wisdom and one for real estate. And this could be a book you've read, a movie you've seen, a conference you've been to, mentorship program you've been a part of, anything like that.
Well, general wisdom, Maxwell Maltz is a book called Psycho-Cybernetics, a really good book about winning your self-image. I would definitely highly recommend that for personal. For business, EOS is a really good starter. It really will get your team dialed in, everybody rowing in the same direction. That's really a foundational piece. Before you just read a book on real estate or raising capital, the running the business is the foundation.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to pick that one up. You've multiple people have recommended that to me. So yeah, I can't put it off anymore. I'm gonna have to buy that one. All right, next question is for your younger self. Let's go back to the Fuquan who was just starting out. I think you said back in 99. Go back to him, look him in the eye, give him one piece of advice moving forward.
Cash flow is king. That's
good. Good advice. Absolutely. All right, next is about the U.S. It's a big place. There is a lot of opportunity out there. Give me the single metro you're most excited about investing in today.
The Southeast is a lot of room for growth. That's kind of where we planted our flag, and we're going to build that out the next 15 years.
Is there a specific city, MSA that you're excited about more?
Macon, Georgia. Middle Georgia is pretty good. Warner Robins, Macon, Georgia. That whole area around there we like.
Nice. All right, moving on. Next question is about finding deals. It all starts with getting in contact with the seller and penning that purchase agreement. So what is your favorite way to generate leads and find new deals?
Mailers, really, and sending checks out. The check
mailers, yeah, for multifamily too, huh?
Yeah, sending out a check, a copy of a check that looks like a real check. This is our offer. We want to buy it now. That gets the phone ringing.
Nice, I like that. I've heard of somebody doing that before. I haven't done it myself, but it sounds. I mean, if I got a check in the mail, and I'd be like, okay, yeah, that number sounds good. Is there a specific yellow letter marketing? What's the other one? Big one
is the check. Are you talking about?
Is there a specific company that does those type of?
We use REI Print. There's a bunch of them, but we use REI Print.
Nice. Yeah, I'm gonna have to try that specific type of mailer. I've always done the postcards just because they're the cheapest, but
the mailer's the check is pretty expensive.
Yeah. But if you get a return, if you get one single deal from a mailer batch, then it's worth it. So, all right, next question is about lessons learned. Not every deal we get into goes the way we expect it. In fact, pretty much every single time something's going to go wrong. And that's when we get to learn a lesson. So what was a deal that went a little bit sideways for you? And what was the lesson you pulled from it?
Wow, environmental, didn't do the due diligence on a deal. I was actually just talking to someone about this yesterday. A friend of mine reached out to me. Hey, I got this great deal. The guy is going out of town. He's selling his property. I was managing it for him. It's $25,000 as a single family. He gives me the address. I look it up. I'm like, this property is 180,000. Something has to be wrong. No, everything is good. We have to close in 2 weeks. I go check out the property. I look at it. Structurally, is good. I'm like, and I've been in the business for a long time at this time. All right, good. Let's do the deal. I'm buying it way below market value, so there's enough room for errors. I bought a property quickly, didn't do my environmental due diligence, what we scanned for. Actually, I did scan for oil tank, but there was no tank. And basically, I did not go and check the open records report, to see if there was any open permits. That's the step that we take. So we closed on it real quick, and then basically, when I went to go file permits, they told me there was an open permit for oil tank removal that was contaminated, and there was no further action letter submitted for the remediation. Called my company that does the remediation, found out they were the one who actually went and was involved with the remediation. The person who was doing it was $180,000 remediation, by the way, something like that.
Oof.
Crazy. So,
Jeez. Yeah, and that I mean, we hear that same kind of story so many times, and it's happened to me where you don't follow your checklist step by step. You get a deal, it seems really good, and you're like, all right, let's do it, let's close.
you got to
And
you got to do the do. You got to
yep,
do the
exactly.
diligence. But we made out okay on that. We sat on it for a few years. COVID came, saved us. We was able to find another company to do it for the half of the price. We remodeled the house, and we still made profit. But we sat on it for a long time.
Yeah, and you're probably not going to make that mistake again in the future, which is one of the
Absolutely.
good things about mistakes is they stick with you.
If somebody gives me a certificate that said there's no tank, I'm still doing a tank scan.
I'm still checking it. That's right. So on the other side of that, sometimes things go right, and those deals stick out in our mind as our favorites. So what is that deal for you?
I got a few of those. When you anticipate a certain value when you buy a property and you go to sell it and it's appreciated like crazy, that's amazing, right? One property in mine, the value was 1.4 million on my ARV sale. I wound up selling the property for 2.2 million.
Jeez, that's all appreciation. That's crazy.
No, it wasn't really. It was really the realtor price per square foot in that area for new construction was a few houses sold by the time I finished the project. It took me 2 years to finish the project. It was almost a 7,500 square foot home, big foundation, walkout basement. By the time we got through variances, permits, and everything else, it was 2 years later, and a few homes sold that was the same footprint that yield that much per square foot. So I was able to take advantage of that. All the challenges that I went through, I was able to get the reward for it at the end. So that was a blessing.
Yeah. Yeah, that is one of the I don't do single family. I did way back in the day, but that is definitely one of the advantages of single family over commercial is single family is not tied to NOI, and it's just tied to what things are sold around in the area. And so if you get some good sales in your neighborhood, that is a boon for you. So awesome. That is I love that happened. That leads us to the second to last question. This one is a new question we've been asking. It's about AI. I'm a huge proponent of it. So what is a way that you have implemented AI in your business that you can suggest people do for themselves?
Awesome. A few. I'll just talk about one that comes to mind. In ChatGPT, it allows you to create projects, and you can get the project's instructions. So anything you post in there, it will follow those instructions. And you can use it for like quick back of the napkin due diligence. You can use it pretty much for anything. You can use it for meetings. So I put a prompt in there that says the who, what, and when. After each meeting, give me the who, what, and when in the summary of the meeting so we can execute. It gives me that, posted to the team. The next meeting, we go over the action items first, then we get to the agenda. So that helps everybody remember when we leave the meeting, because people want to retain 20% of what they hear. We were talking about that before the call start. The who, what, and when it gets executed from each meeting using AI. So it's really good.
Yeah, those projects, that is something I've been using a lot, and I feel like it's very underutilized for people that even use AI. Is just putting those projects together so it has context about what you're putting into that specific conversation. Yeah, it's a really good hack. That leads us to the very last question. This is for the listeners. You've given us a lot to think about. I'm sure people want to reach out, get in contact with you. This is a two-parter. Where can they find you, and then what can they expect when they reach out?
Anywhere on social media, LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, @Fuquan Bilal. And if you want to have a call, You can go to my website, nngcapitalfund.com, and schedule a discovery call.
Perfect. I'll put those links in the show notes. So if y'all want to reach out, all you got to do is click the little more in the description. It'll pull down that full description, and in there you can find Fuquan's links.
Awesome.
All right, man. That wraps it up. Thank you very much for hopping on the show.
It's been a plum-pleasing pleasure.
And we're going to have you back on to talk about the luxury spec homes, because we didn't get to that. But for everybody who's with us today, thank you guys for showing up. You are the reason we do this. So if you guys have any questions, reach out to me, Gabe at therealestateinvestingclub.com. If you guys want to support the show, leave us a review, comment, anything like that. Other than that, I hope you guys have a great week. Keep rocking real estate, and I look forward to seeing you on the next episode.